more in the way of high cloud pushing in from the west through this afternoon. That will turn the sunshine hazy, and then some patchy outbreaks of rain will work their way into the west of Northern Ireland later. Temperatures between 4 and 5 degrees Celsius in the north, highs around 7 to 9 degrees Celsius in the south. We'll see some rain for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland this evening. The cloud will then increase for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, Wales and the southwest of England. Some patchy outbreaks of rain pushing in into the early hours. Holding on to clearer skies though in the East Midlands, the east and southeast of England, and that will allow the temperatures to fall away. A few patches of mist and fog to form, I think, particularly for southeast England, East Anglia, and maybe a touch of frost in rural spots. That takes us into Stroud, where we'll see a warm front working to the east across the country. Rain and milder temperatures, so wet start first thing for Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, northwest England, Wales and southwest England, brighter and drier in eastern Scotland, northeast England, east and southeast England to begin with. The rain will be heaviest in the north, but it will become patchy and lighter as it works its way east through the day, so turning cloudy in the southeast of England with patchy outbreaks of rain by lunchtime. Brightening up in Scotland, Northern England, Northern Ireland after that front's passed through, with some potentially heavy thundery showers in Scotland. And it will be a breezy day across the board, but particularly windy in the far north of Scotland, with gales and severe gales. Temperatures at a maximum of 12 degrees Celsius. And then Sunday will be another cloudy and mild day. There will be some rain in the north, but further south we'll see some brighter intervals, particularly to the east of high ground. Some patchy rain in the west though. Temperatures around about 14 degrees Celsius. Thanks, Lucy.
In August 2016, we met voters on each side of the EU referendum debate in 2 rooms. The Leaves of Boston, Lincolnshire, and the Remainers of Brixton, South London. And in moderated discussion groups, they expressed their arguments and their hopes or fears for the future fully and frankly, and we listened in.
The first news that leave was a massive relief.
Is there a plan? Surely there's a plan. 15 months later, we revisit those voters to find out whether their views on Brexit have hardened or softened. Join me, Fee Jumper, for Brexit Britain, 2 Rooms Revisited, next Wednesday night at 8 on BBC Radio 4.
B. Wilson looks at the time sugar first arrived in Britain as a medicine. The final part of Sweetness and Desire is at 1:45. On FM, on Longwave, on digital radio and online. This is BBC Radio 4.
The World at One, this is Johnny Diamond. Lots of questions, very few answers over a food safety scare involving some of the country's most popular restaurants.
We sell around 200,000 steaks a week, so we need to make sure that what we're serving is perfect, and we just got to that stage, let's draw them. So we did that, and actually, in retrospect, we made absolutely the right decision.
We'll be speaking live to the Food Standards Agency and asking why it took several days for the meat concerned to be withdrawn. President Trump is about to speak to the global elite he has used as a punch bag. We'll bring you the speech as soon as it's happened, plus expert analysis. A number of male journalists will take a cut in their salary in the ongoing row over pay equality. And after the long battle to rid Iraq's second city of so-called Islamic State militants, it's not just buildings that are being reconstructed, but lives as well.
The first minutes when ISIS left my home and take all my instruments, I just...
Oh my God, what's wrong? God damn.
With my arm music, with the army of musicians.
The BBC News...
Army of lunatics.
The Chancellor, Philip Hammond, has defended his comments on Brexit after he was accused of undermining Theresa May's strategy. Leading Conservative Eurosceptics, including Jacob Rees-Mogg, had reacted angrily to his suggestion that changes to the trade relationship between the UK and EU would be modest. Today, Mr Hammond said his remarks had to be seen in context and insisted the UK would be leading the single market and customs union. His political correspondent, Ian Watson.
The Prime Minister's spokesman made clear that Theresa May retained full confidence in the Chancellor after he faced strong criticism from some Conservative backbenchers for suggesting there may be only modest changes to trading rules with the EU after Brexit. Neither the Prime Minister nor the Chancellor had spoken since he delivered his speech in Davos yesterday. Number 10 refused to say if the Prime Minister had approved it in advance. Downing Street said that Brexit Secretary David Davis would be setting out the government's position. transitional arrangements with the EU this afternoon, including the UK's ability to negotiate new trade deals. The head of the European Research Group of Conservative MPs, Jacob Rees-Mogg, suggested that the Chancellor had been affected by the high mountain air in Switzerland and accused him of freelancing policy. He suggested Mr Hammond should come into alignment with the rest of the government.
Philip Hammond has described the latest economic figures as excellent, saying they show the resilience of the British economy. Growth in the last 3 months of 2017 was higher than predicted, up 0.5% compared with the previous year. But as a whole, 2017 saw the slowest economic growth for 5 years. Here's business correspondent John T. Bloom.
The British economy continues to grow, but at a slightly sluggish rate. The services sector, which accounts for 80% of the whole economy, led the way and was by far the largest contributor to growth. Services to business and finance did particularly well, those which rely on consumer spending were not as healthy. Manufacturing, helped by the weak pound, is growing strongly, but the construction sector is still contracting in size. Overall growth in 2017 of 1.8% was slightly worse than the previous year and the weakest rate of growth since 2012. The Office for National Statistics said that the underlying picture was of slower and uneven growth across the economy.
President Trump is about to begin addressing the World Economic Forum in the Swiss resort of Davos, where he's expected to highlight US economic successes and America's future role in global trade. This morning, Mr. Trump said he was prepared to apologise for sharing anti-Muslim videos from a far-right British group on social media. Mr. Trump said he hadn't known anything about the organisation Britain First when he posted their messages on Twitter last year. Mr. Trump has denied reports that he tried last year to sunk the head of an investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. US media say Mr. Trump was dissuaded from firing Special Counsel Robert Mueller, but key White House officials threatened to resign. Mr. Trump dismissed the story as fake news. A 15-year-old boy who killed 5 people when he crashed a stolen car in Leeds has been detained for more than 4 years. The boy, who can't be named for legal reasons, admitted 5 counts of causing death by dangerous driving. Leeds Crown Court heard the car was travelling at 88 miles per hour when it hit a tree and split in two. The court has ruled that a coroner was wrong to restrict the scope of an inquest into the Birmingham pub bombings. 21 people died when 2 bombs were detonated in the city in 1974. From the High Court, here's Seema Katecha.
6 men were falsely imprisoned for carrying out the attacks in Birmingham and were acquitted in 1991. Those responsible have never been prosecuted. In 2016, it was announced that there would be a new inquest into the bombings, but the coroner ruled out naming the alleged suspects in evidence, a decision which was challenged by some of the families of the victims. Now, the Judicial Review has ruled that the coroner must reconsider his decision. Mrs. Justice Sue Carr said, "We are minded to quash the decision which excluded the perpetrator issue and remit the case so as to enable him to reconsider the decision in the light of this judgment."
The pub chain Wetherspoon has apologised to its customers after it had to stop serving steak because of a problem with its meat supplier. The supplier, Russell Hume, has blamed a mislabelling issue. The Food Standards Agency said it was now investigating Russell Hume for not complying with food hygiene regulations. Wetherspoon said it would no longer work with the company. Several of the BBC's leading male presenters have agreed, either formally or in principle, to take a cut in their salary, including Nicky Campbell and John Humphreys. Earlier this month, the corporation's China editor, Carrie Gracie, resigned from her role in protest about the difference in pay between men and women. Here's our media editor, Amal Raja.
So now it's official. The top pay of presenters such as John Humphreys in news and Jeremy Vine in radio will come down. Others, such as Hugh Edwards, are in ongoing discussions and too. The disclosure of salaries for top on-air earners last summer revealed not only a gender pay gap across the organisation, but that many women were doing similar jobs to men for vastly less money. Those men often signed generous deals years ago when the market for their talents was more competitive than it is now. Historically, women at the BBC have not been as likely to receive such generous remuneration, and it's not clear that reducing the pay of some top male presenters actually creates the equality being demanded by many voices across the corporation.
The BBC has just issued a statement confirming that Hugh Edwards, Nicky Campbell, John Humphreys, John Sokol, Nick Robinson and Jeremy Vine have all agreed that their pay will now be reduced. Thanks.
as we go on air, President Trump has just started speaking at the World Economic Forum in the Swiss resort of Davos to an audience of the global financial elite, formerly cast by him as his foes. He spoke to reporters as he arrived this morning alongside the head of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab.
My message is peace and prosperity. That's what we have. And we have a tremendous crowd, and a crowd like they've never had before. Klaus is
Crowd like I've never had before. Crowd like I've never had before.
Including all of you people like they've never had before, so that's good. I assume they're here because of Klaus. It's a very positive message. The United States is doing fantastically well, better than we've done in decades. The stock markets are incredible. Businesses are coming back into the United States. I think it's going to be a great message that people are going to like hearing.
We'll have the highlights of his speech. What started as the rather mysterious suspension of a popular steak night at the pub chain Wetherspoon has blossomed into a full-blown food safety scare. The meat supplier Russell Hume described its recall of meat products as a precautionary measure because of mislabeling. The Food Standards Agency thinks otherwise. It said that when it inspected Russell Hume's Birmingham site earlier this month, it found serious non-compliance with food hygiene regulations. On Wednesday, the FSA said it had stopped any meat leaving Russell Hume Company sites, and unused meat had been withdrawn from its customers. They range from restaurants including Wetherspoon, Jamie's Italian, some Hilton hotels, Butlins Warner Leisure and Haven hotels, as well as schools and care homes. These Wetherspoon's customers in Nottingham want to see steak back on the menu.
I think it's hyped up a bit too much, to be honest with you. They've not proven anything to say it's detrimental to somebody eating it.
So you wish it was still on the menu?
Basically. To take it off the menu the way they have, it's a bit drastic really, isn't it? Without proving anything positive to say that.
What's the attraction for the steak here?
It's cheap and cheerful, isn't it, at the end of the day? Yes, get what you pay for.
I do use the Wetherspoons at Ilkeston a lot, and I have had steak there.
And it's off the menu now, for the time being?
For the time being, yes. Well, what is the problem with it then? I've never been poorly, so...
It's a labelling issue and food and hygiene, potentially.
Well, I don't like the sound of the food and hygiene bit, but still, what can you do? Like I say, I've had it and I'm alright, so... Yeah.
You're going to miss your steak then?
Yeah, I suppose so, but I'm going in for breakfast now.
You can have alternatives, apparently. There's pork, there's fish, there's halloumi. You're making a face.
Yeah, not pork. I hate pork.
You're going to have to miss it for a few days.
Yeah, and I'm going to have a vegetarian breakfast now, in here. Thank you.
Some Wetherspoon customers there. Eddie Gershon is from Wetherspoon and told us how they were informed that there might be a problem.
We first made aware of the problem Tuesday morning when our distribution lawyers went to pick up the products from Russell Hume and the gates were locked. They reported back to us. We tried to get some information from Russell Hume. The information we got from them was that there was some issues with labelling and they wouldn't say any more despite further questions from us. And we just didn't feel that it sounded right, and we sell around 200,000 steaks a week, so we need to make sure that what we're serving is perfect, and we just felt at that stage, let's withdraw them. So we did that, and actually in retrospect we made absolutely the right decision.
So you had steaks on the premises that could have gone to diners, but you made the decision that given what you'd heard from Russell Hume, you needed to withdraw those from sale.
Absolutely right. We emailed and phoned all the pubs there and then and told them not to serve any more steaks. So there might well have been someone who'd ordered a steak at 12 o'clock and was served, and then by 1 o'clock no steaks were served. Russell Hume not being forthcoming whatsoever in letting us know what's going on, and now 72 hours later, the information we have is from the FSA and we're waiting for a further update from them. So we've now cancelled contract with Russell Hume and we've taken on other suppliers to bring steaks into the company and its pubs, but unfortunately Russell Hume has still not provided us with the information about what's actually gone wrong.
If you were buying 200,000 steaks a week from Russell Hume, presumably you were a pretty big customer of theirs. You might have expected some word from them.
Again, you're absolutely right. Our chief executive, John Hudson, had for 36 hours on and off tried to get through and reported back to me. Because obviously he needed to keep me in the loop on things, and reported back to me that the phone was just off couldn't get through to anyone, and then their website went off, and then they phoned Wetherspoon and said they could have a 20-minute phone conversation on Wednesday, which was again 36 hours after what had happened. And again, that to me, that the 20-minute conversation didn't really offer anything new. They never said much more than the worst of issues. So until the FSA came up with a report on Wednesday evening where they said that they were looking into it, but that no one they felt would be made ill as a result of the food from Russell Hume, we had no more information. And to this day, we still don't know, which is why when we said to our customers it's coming off the menu due to labelling issues, they rightly said, what's going on? But we couldn't say any more to them because we didn't know, and we still don't.
What about the government agency involved, the FSA? Did you turn to them once you had this sort of wall of silence from Russell Hume?
We did find out from them that they were going to be putting up a press release, so they did tell us that in advance, but we certainly didn't have any information for 36 hours till that put out the press release themselves.
It is a long time, 36 hours in your business. It's a long time, it's a lot of meals and a lot of customers.
It is a long time, and we're certainly not feeling smug about it, but we had to make a decision, and you know, there might well have been other companies that would have thought, let's leave it a couple of days, see how it pans out. But we made that decision there and then. It was very fortunate that we did, because we just said to ourselves, we're a well-known company, we have a good reputation, we're serving 200,000 steaks a week or 10 million a year, and we do over £1 billion of food a year. We've got to make sure we get this absolutely right. And when the gates to the food production places are closed, then alarm bells start ringing, and unfortunately for Russell Hume it's proved to be the case that things are not right there, and as I say, we've now cancelled our contract with them, which is a shame because we've dealt with them for many, many years, but obviously things are taking a different turn.
Eddie Gershon speaking for the Wetherspoon chain. The meat supplier, Russell Hume's company website, has gone offline. Although we did manage to speak to someone at their head office, they didn't respond to our request for an interview today. In a previous statement, they've criticised the way that the FSA has handled the investigation, saying that they were a business of 50 years standing with what they called an unblemished record. Well, Jason Feeney is the Chief Executive of the Food Standards Agency. This is the first interview the agency has given us on this issue. Welcome, Mr. Feeney.
Good afternoon.
What's gone wrong here?
Well, what we have here, and I want to be clear that that there's no cover-up, is that the FSA, we've taken proportionate action because of an ongoing investigation into this particular company, and we've got concerns about instances of serious non-compliance with food hygiene regulations.
You discovered the problem at an inspection of their Birmingham site on January the 12th. You then had further sites inspected across the country in the next few days. All sales and production were ordered to be halted on the 19th. Why that delay in particular? Why did you not act after you found the problems in Birmingham?
Well, at that point, when we visited the plant on the Birmingham plant on the 12th, on that Friday, there wasn't serious concerns because of the nature of the non-compliances we found there. But when we widened the investigation, as you say, in the following 2 or 3 days across all their plants, and also into cold stores, products held in cold stores by Russell Hume. And at that point, we were concerned that this was a more systemic and widespread problem and more serious in terms of its scale and nature, and that's the point at which we then decided to, as we have done, stop all production at these plants and detain all product, and then obviously led on to recalling all the product from the customers.
Okay, so you stopped all sales and production on the 19th. The recall only happened on the 23rd. Why 4 days in which product which was already in restaurants' freezers and chiller cabinets could have been served to people?
Yeah, we have to be clear, working with the company about the extent of the products and the customers affected. So it was working with the company to undertake that voluntary recall. Clearly, if the company doesn't decide to voluntarily recall, then we can take steps and measures to have those products identified and recalled from customers. So the message to Russell Hume customers is clear, that if they have any product from that company, they should return it, and we're overseeing the disposal of that product when it's returned as well, just to make sure it's properly disposed.
You didn't feel it was urgent enough on the 19th to insist on an immediate recall, although you had said that sales and production had to cease.
That's right. We were establishing with the company the extent of the recall and from the period of the recall as well.
May I ask you about the way in which you carry out your work? Because some people have criticised, in particular this instance, the Chartered Institute of Environmental Health has said the public has been kept in the dark. You're bringing in a new regulatory model for food safety that relies on more self-auditing. There are those who say self-auditing is frankly not enough, and what they need is more staff. What you need is more staff to go and do these kinds of inspections.
Well, this incident came as a result of one of our unannounced inspections. I've been in contact with the Chartered Institute of Environmental Health, and environmental health officers out there are helping us handle this investigation now and this incident now. So we've got strong cooperation with both the Chartered Institute and operationally with environmental health officers in local authorities that are impacted and working with us closely on handling this issue. I mean, the reform we've called for and was supported by the Select Committee was that we should have more access as a regulator and local authorities in terms of their action that they take in inspections to audits and inspections that are conducted both by representative bodies such as the Tractor, but also by retailers and others involved in the food sector, so that we get a fuller picture of the nature of the food industry more broadly, but also individual companies and any issues that are identified through those audits that are conducted by third parties. So it's not a question of us stepping away or local authorities stepping away from regulation of the food sector. We'd still be at the heart of that. It's just having access to a greater range of information and products that are out there that would give us a much clearer position and a much clearer idea about the state of individual companies and the sector as a whole.
And briefly, what's your advice to people who have Russell Hulme products in their fridges or in their freezers? Should they dispose of them?
Well, our advice is to either dispose or return it to Russell Hulme. And just one final point from me, if I could, is that there is no evidence that anybody's become ill from eating these products. But nonetheless, the company have not been able to demonstrate that they've got a sufficiently robust food management system in place, and that's why we've taken this action.
Jason Feeney, Chief Executive of the Food Standards Agency, thank you for your time. What kind of a trading nation should we be when we leave the EU? Yesterday, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Philip Hammond, suggested that we should be very much the same sort of nation as we are now. Changes in our relationship with the EU, he said, should only be very modest, the implication being that European markets should remain a primary target. In exchange for that, of course, we would keep the European regulations that would presumably help gain tariff-free access or something like it to those markets. Some leave enthusiasts have a very different vision, one of a country liberated from the red tape that emanates from Brussels, free to slash corporate taxes and suck in business hungry for a trade-friendly birth. Our economics editor Kamal Ahmed has been speaking to the Chancellor in Davos this morning and asked if there's been a cost to the British economy because of the Brexit vote.
We know that uncertainty impairs business investment, and there is a degree of uncertainty, and that is delaying some business investment decisions. We talk to businesses who tell us that they're waiting for greater clarity about the future before they invest. What I'm very clear about is that as we move forward, we made very good progress in December. As we move forward in this negotiation, we will be able to start to deliver that clarity to businesses, to markets, and to consumers.
You'll know there's been a lot of controversy back in the UK about your comments about our relationships with the European Union only changing in a very modest way. Are you a hyper-soft Brexiteer?
No, not at all. I said yesterday that we will leave the European Union in 2019, and at the same time we will leave the customs union and we'll leave the single market. What I was explaining to my audience is that starting as we do with a very high degree of trade with the EU, a very high level of alignment, we should be able to negotiate a very high degree of market access for the future and a very smooth process at the border, which means that there should be minimal disruption to the trade patterns that the companies I was speaking to already have with the European Union. That will protect British prosperity and protect British jobs.
But aren't comments like very modest, which sound like the softest of soft Brexit, they just destabilise where the Prime Minister is, destabilise the government, makes a controversy where there wasn't one before, that you take some responsibility for those kind of issues and the controversies that they create.
Well, I think the context is important. I was speaking about our trade relationship with the EU, and it is the government's policy that we want to maintain the maximum possible access to markets and the minimum friction at our borders, because that's good for the British economy, it's good for British jobs, and it's good for British prosperity.
Chancellor of the Exchequer speaking to our economics editor there. So what kind of trade policy should Britain be aiming for after Brexit? Gerard Lyons is Chief Economic Strategist at NetWealth Investments and has been economics advisor to Boris Johnson. Meredith Crowley is an international trade economist at Cambridge University. Welcome to you both.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Gerard Lyons, let me ask you first. You clearly see Brexit as a huge opportunity. Can you tell me the shape of that opportunity as far as trade is concerned?
Because it seizes the moment where